Hi everyone. Today I'm going to talk about the twin flame aspect where if people start getting guidances that their twin flame is not ready to be with them, what can happen to people? Sometimes when this kind of guidances appear, they could be like a test from the universe for you to understand the dynamics better and also to understand deeply what is going on within your connection. Because initially there is something called the bubble phase in a twin flame relationship, and when the bubble phase happens, everyone's in a magical kind of a place where you are just bonding very deeply with this other human being. And it is not necessary that the bubble phase will happen when you are in contact with your twin flame in person or dating them in person or you're married to them. None of these might happen when you were maybe married to your twin flame, or you are married to your twin flame, or you were dating someone who was your twin flame. It's not necessary that the bubble phase can arise at that time. But when the realization happens in both souls, I believe that is when the bubble phase happens. And it is not just about the realization, but when there is an inner, deeper realization that this is my person, you start feeling like this. How they say in books and stories about rose colored glasses of being in love. That is what the bubble phase can look like, where you are just trying to do the best for each other. And this is true of any relationship. So twin flame relationship also, that's why naturally has this similar phase of both couples wanting, both counterparts wanting good things for each other and wanting to the best for each other. So, because my experience happened when I was not in contact with my twin flame, most of the things that were happening with me when I realized that he is a twin flame is that I just started getting this realization that yes, I have a counterpart with whom I can telepathically connect in some sixth sense abilities. But this person is not in my life, and I don't know how the divine can orchestrate us to be in each other's lives. I wanted to try out certain things, and I thought about it, but then somehow, it just never materialized what I was thinking. And certain things were very coincidental that long before I met him, certain thoughts came in my mind that I should do this, do that, certain steps that I feel if I had started that a few years before I met him, even that could have led me towards going and ending up meeting him somehow. But I don't know, but it seemed to me later on, like after I met him, like how certain things were connected to him. Also, another thing that I found very magical about this whole process was there were different people that I met while in US. Some I met while I was dating them, some guys I met, and then there were other experiences I had with other guys with whom my family tried to set me up, or I found them online on matrimonial websites or dating websites, and I met certain guys. And all these personalities or people who I potentially thought that I could possibly be interested in them, they all somehow seem to have certain characteristics that started like matching and fitting the puzzle of my twin flame. So that's how also, because I am a little bit logical person and practical experiences driven, that's why, the way it turned out, the way I was convinced that he's my twin flame was in a way because he seemed to have all these different aspects of personality and nature very similar to people I had met in the past. And when I had done a manifestation thing almost like 10 years back in my manifestation journal about my ideal relationship, whatever I had written in that manifestation journal, initially when I had written it, a few years after that, I was dating someone, and I thought, yeah, this guy also has some of those qualities. But somehow, when the universe started showing me experiences about my twin flame and his life experience and life path, prior to him meeting me, when I got a glimpse of those experiences, it seemed like he was fitting in many ways certain things that I had written in my journal about my ideal partner. But the strange thing is, so I met him, then I felt some telepathy, then we were conversing with each other telepathically. I was feeling his pain because I don't know, he had some years of pain in his soul and heart for some reason. And he didn't reveal it to me why he had the pain. Universe did reveal some of these things. But I can't confirm and deny because some of those things were also like there was a reason, I am sure, why I got some information in jumbled up manner. So it was not a chronological linear manner of information about my twin flame. But that's how grief is. Like, say, if I'm grieving about two of my exes, when I have been grieving about them, or our relationships ending, or our relationships not going in the manner in which I would have loved for them to go towards, and those times when I was grieving those relationships and the pain I had felt and the heartache I had felt, everything had yeah, like grief is not linear, right? Like if say you break up with someone 10 years back, it's not necessary that you will feel grief about that relationship ending only at the months or days after you broke up. You can feel the grief a few years later, a few decades later. Also, some remnants of grief could still be there in your energy system because certain connections are meant that way, that universe sets them up to be that kind of connections where you may still love that person, but obviously that person is still not at that point of time in your life. So there could be regret, there could be many other emotions going around in a person's energy system that causes them to face these grief and suffering from an experience they had 10 years back. So that's why, like, there was a saying that I had read, like, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional, is this aspect of the twin flame journey that I want to discuss about here a little bit, because many people don't understand the deeper repercussions of a twin flame journey. Sometimes people get lost in thinking that it is just a love story, and yes, it can become a beautiful love story between two people, but only it can reach that level of a beautiful cohesive and compatible love story only when both people are ready for experiencing that. In the modern world, what I have noticed, many guys are uncomfortable with love stories, or many even women have slowly started shutting down their hearts to the possibility of a beautiful love story emerging for them. People don't feel deserving of love in many aspects of their life, and this happens to everyone because of the way we are growing up in society, the way society is growing. Our parents and our culture usually just pushes people to just earn money or earn financial independence, or people are just worried about their health, and either health or health of their kids and health of their elderly in the family. These are the things in which everyone just gets wrapped around in their lives. They are just constantly in the illusion of the world regarding living, health, and lifestyle. But why is it an illusion? The illusion is that the illusion that I figured out eventually, I feel, is one part of the illusion is that everything is about suffering. Other part of the illusion is that everything is about karma, that if we are suffering or if something is happening to us, it is happening because maybe in the past life we have done something wrong, or maybe our ancestors did something wrong and our family is cursed and that's why they are suffering. Or maybe like when with Indians, like I have seen many Indians, they do have those ancestors who had suffered. It is very true. Like people who lived in the parts of India where partition happened, and West Bengal, East Bengal got partitioned, and also in the western side we have Punjab that was partitioned into Pakistan and Indian parts. So the Punjab and other provinces near Punjab went into Pakistan. So people who were from that area and from in northern area, ranging from Kashmir to Punjab or maybe Kashmir to Gujarat, these people have likely got family who live in Pakistan also. They have people, there were people who migrated to both sides of the border. So these are the people, when they were migrating, they must have faced a lot of migration related suffering regarding food, clothing, shelter. So it is understandable when Indians have this mentality. Same way in Bengal also, there are people who must have migrated from Bangladesh into all the northeastern states of India, and people from northeastern states might have migrated to Bangladesh. But because of that, again, that side of the country also has a segment of the population which is always some of whom are in this lack mindset, some of whom, even if they get abundance in their life, they don't use the abundance effectively. And I also had that characteristic because I'm also from West Bengal, so I do tend to likely have those genes, or maybe because of the parents who raised me and grandparents who raised me, I also had that aspect of personality that you should be careful with money, you don't spend too much. I have been pretty much been quite frugal most of the time with money. I don't usually spend much in materialistic things. The only materialism related aspect that showed up in my life when I was working in US was that because I was a single person, and because I was also doing a lot of trying, I used to have a size 12 figure, like 70 plus kgs weight was my weight initially in my 20s. So I tried to reduce weight, and slowly I got it in the 60s and near to the healthy BMI range. But to do that, it took me a few years. So I kept changing dress sizes. And then again, when I went back to college, went back to grad school for doing management, again, some stress happened in my life at that point of time. And again, I started gaining weight. So this back and forth of weight gain led me to buy a lot of clothes, buy a lot of shoes. These are the materialistic things that I spent money on: clothes, shoes, and sometimes artificial jewelry. But other than that, I didn't, because my family was not so much into food or eating, even though I lived in a international environment, I didn't explore eating as such. I would only occasionally go explore with some. I have fondness for dessert. Being a Bengali, that is also there in our genetics, that either you can say genetics or environmental raising, that if you are raised as a child to have desserts all the time, you get raised eating desserts and enjoying desserts. They become your comfort food. So because of that, I would eat a lot of desserts in US. But even then, because I was living in a state where people were little less into eating desserts, slowly over time, I also stopped enjoying really sugary food, and the level of fondness I used to have for Bengali desserts as a kid completely reduced by the time I came back from US. Even I do get occasional bursts of feeling like eating really sweet food, but overall the sweet cravings went down with time. So this thing, why I'm talking about now eating habits, is also because eating habits and the way a person spends money, these spends money, utilizes money, doesn't spend money, doesn't eat, these are all parts of the history of a person's genetics, history of a person's cultural setting, where they were raised, by whom they were raised. All these environmental factors and genetic factors cause a person to develop certain preferences for certain kinds of food. And most of the cultures, you will see the comfort food is associated with festival time. And why? why comfort food are associated with festival time is because in festival time, what happens in any country during festivals, be it Thanksgiving, be it Christmas, be it Diwali, be it Holi, people are gathering their whole family. And if not family, if people are living outside in a state or in a different country, they are gathering their friends together for enjoying a particular festival. And when enjoying the particular festival, the main focus, because so many people have gathered now, is on food and is on eating, drinking, and being merry. And so the part that humans are enjoying is the merriment and the close knit connection that they are building with their friends or family. But along with that, the psychological impact of this is that a person has the deeper psychology is you're also eating while you are enjoying with friends, and that's why the focus becomes on food. And when people are lonely, and when people are undergoing depression, or when people are isolated, like it is happening during COVID, what is happening is everyone who is isolated during COVID, or feeling depressed during COVID, or feeling isolated because of their twin flame experience that they can't express to anyone around them, because people around them are not experiencing this twin flame journey. All these things lead to a separation from the close knit family that you could have had with your family and friends and or colleagues. And because of that, then what starts happening, and even when you are going through an ascension on awakening process, when you are awakening, you start getting awakened to certain aspects of the illusions of living in the 3D world. And the reason why everyone starts getting awakened to a certain aspect of the illusion of the 3D world is because every soul has chosen to awaken to certain things first, and then slowly understand that concept, so that after they have awakened, they can make their free will choice of choosing a life path that will lead them to their soul purpose. So that is the point of awakening a human being. And when every one of us is awakening, which is what is happening during COVID, the separation also that is happening in COVID, when people are getting isolated, when people are getting segregated also in certain countries, like with the lockdowns and other things, there is a spiritual purpose behind it. It is not just a disease that is happening. It is not just a viral disease. It is not just a socio-economic condition that is causing certain things to exist. It's a big thing that is happening during COVID. Many human beings are not able to wake up. Some human beings decided to wake up long before COVID happened. So the ones who have decided to wake up long before COVID happened, they have been practicing already techniques to help humanity to address the COVID problem. There are people who are waking up to address the COVID problem. There are people who are waking up to address the socio-economic problems that are existing in different parts of the world. There are people who are waking up to start addressing social change, and people who are waking up to address sexuality and sexuality based social illnesses that are thriving in the society, because our society doesn't have good mental health, good sexual health related parameters. Most countries don't have a good way of looking at human body itself. Lots of information about the human body is messed up, is not as clear as it should be by now in humanity. And it's necessary for a human being to wake up and go into the next stages of evolution. It's necessary for all those humans to start looking into newer paradigms of change, be it societal change, be it socioeconomic change, be it lifestyle change, be it changes regarding the viewpoints people have about love and relationships and family dynamics and existing together as a family, because lots of things have to change for humans to evolve. And COVID is actually trying to show people in isolation, what can people do? People can start reflecting on what is important to them, what values are important, what people are important, what kind of people would they love to interact with, who are the people that will bring them joy in their life, what kind of things can they do to bring joy in other people's lives. If someone is isolated, doesn't have a family, if say you are an orphan and you don't have anyone to take care of, just if you have just yourself to take care of, isn't there a rest of society that can become your family? Then there are people who chose, those souls who chose to be orphans, or souls who chose to be, say, adoptive kids of certain family. Their soul chose that path because there was a reason for them to have chosen that path, because they were meant to create a new type of family dynamics. Then there are people who are also, maybe they have a large family but they don't identify with that family because that whole family pattern is maybe stuck in victimhood mentality, or they are stuck in some societal paradigm that is actually not useful or beneficial for the future generation. Because for any society to evolve, any culture to evolve, for any species also to evolve, what is needed for evolve, not involve, evolve, what is needed for all people to do is that some change has to happen. And the change only happens when there is a lot of people who have the support for that change to happen. Like when Gandhiji did Dandi March, he was able to do Dandi March, or when he did Quit India movement, he was able to do these things only because there was a significant percentage of the Indian population who was ready for taking control of their own lives and their own society. They didn't wish for a foreigner to govern them anymore. That's why that happened. And the only reason that was possible was because there was something going on in the way the governance was happening when the Britishers were there that caused unhappiness to arrive in society. So that's why unhappiness, depression also has a role. Oppression also has a role. If Britishers hadn't come and oppressed Indians, they wouldn't have had this need to go into these different ways of looking and materializing things in their life. But also because the Britishers came, they actually gave the Indians the common ground to communicate with each other. Because even now, if I go to South India, they speak in English, they won't speak to people in Hindi because they have some kind of a problem with the Hindi language. They think Hindi is the language of the North Indians, so they don't want to speak in Hindi language. Whereas when you are in Northern India, you can speak in Hindi or English. So majorly, at least 80% of India is more comfortable communicating with other Indians in English than they are with Hindi, which is the official Indian language. Yeah, it is true that the Indian constitution made Hindi the Indian official language, and at that time there are South Indians or Northeast Indians or even West Indians who didn't, this was the language which was maybe spoken by 50% or 40% of India, but at least 40% of India spoke that language, right? There were rest of India who didn't speak that language and they were not willing to learn that language, even though it was made. But instead, they were ready to communicate and converse in English, which is a foreigner's language. That was also a foreign language. Hindi also was, I think, originally in India. Sanskrit was probably the original script of many Indian languages. And from Sanskrit, Hindi, Bengali, Marathi, many Indian languages developed from Sanskrit. Sanskrit words are also there in South Indian languages. If you look at Vedic literature, that's based on Sanskrit. So Sanskrit should have been the official Indian language. But why is Sanskrit also not the official Indian language? Is because Initially, when Sanskrit developed, it was a language which was used by the Brahmins, the upper elite class, who were praying and who prayed, like who did prayers, but they were also praying, preying, in the low on the lower classes. And because they were praying on the lower classes, they didn't allow the lower classes to develop a understanding of Sanskrit. So that's why that language got lost in Indian culture. And that's why when different kinds of invaders came, there was a time, as far as I remember in Indian history, different rulers had come, and there were some different rulers in northern parts of India, different rulers in southern parts of India, and they all just had their own individual languages. That's why in that particular part of India. And only after Mughals came, they came and united a little bit more of India. And when Mughals came and united a little bit more of India, I believe that's when probably Hindi language started developing and emerging from Sanskrit language and languages spoken in northern India. And then after the Mughals came, Mughals have managed to unite at least like maybe 40-50% of India. But after they were invaded by the Britishers, that's when the rest of India got merged together into a Indian country, because they got that unified way of governance. So though Indians hate these invaders, many Indians do currently, in current times. I know some Indians do not like the idea that Indians had been invaded by Mughals or Indians had been invaded by Britishers. But they have to understand the greater, grander purpose behind these invaders who had come to India. They had come to unify this country. They had come to make sure that this whole country can communicate with each other in the same language. Otherwise, we're creating a Tower of Babel where people are not able to communicate with each other. And now, what is the next? And when were the British only allowed to invade India? No, they invaded China, they invaded many other countries, they went to US, Americas. So they got control of, let's say, I don't exactly know how far the British Empire went, but I do know that British Empire, from my history lessons, I know that Britishers were the ones who conquered many parts of the world during the time of heyday of the British Empire. So, because of that reason, what happened? At least 50% of the world understands English language, and now maybe more than 50% of the world understands English language, because that helped in uniting the whole earth into communication medium using one particular language. Okay, so that was the reason why invasion happens. That is the reason why some people manage to take control of either an entire country or a section of the globe or a couple of countries. This is the reason why some population is allowed by the universe to take that control, take that charge, so that evolution can happen. Without the evolution of the English language permeating so many different countries, I wouldn't be sitting here and talking to people around the globe. Whoever wants to listen to my YouTube video, they wouldn't understand me if I was only speaking either in Sanskrit, or only speaking in Hindi, or only speaking in Bengali, or only speaking in Marathi. These are the 4 languages I know apart from English somewhat. I don't know them greatly, but I know them partly enough to understand certain things about certain places and certain cultures there. But main thing is, because I know this global language English, I'm able to communicate with a global population now. So I wouldn't be otherwise be able to do that. And there is even a next level of evolution. If you do energy healing, if you start awakening to the next level of evolution, that is when a person's twin flame journey can start. That is when a person's ascension journey can start. And when that level of evolution is happening, and if you are doing techniques like energy healing, meditation, and higher level spiritual learning, that is when you also start developing sixth sense abilities like telepathy. And that's when you develop telepathy to communicate with people not only across the entire globe who just know English language, they might telepathically, because you're using an energetic way of communicating with people. Even if you're using maybe like an English language to send out your thoughts, they might still be able to receive your thoughts if they have developed that telepathic ability to communicate using energy, because it's the energy of emotions that's what probably drives people to communicate with each other. Like um, I would like to give the example of when the American Indians were conquered by British and other European settlers. How were they able to communicate? I used to always wonder how were these Native Americans able to communicate with people from a foreign language, because Native Americans also have their own way of speaking with each other, and they have their own individual Native American languages and different Native American tribes. So how were they able to communicate? So a part of the communication involved sign language. Part of the communication likely involved things like telepathy for them to have communicated with foreign invaders. Anyways, so I feel that six sense abilities have existed on earth in different human beings for a long time, and the six sense abilities do develop in a certain population, or people can learn about developing these qualities slowly as they are developing and evolving in life. And that is part of the twin flame process. So when twin flames undergo separation, developing these six sense abilities is part of the separation process. Or when people are married to someone else, let me talk about this in the second video. Okay, and if you have any questions about whatever topics I raised on this video regarding telepathy or regarding twin flames, regarding twin flame journey, drop a comment or email me, and we can have further discussions on this. And even about COVID, if you have questions about the separation consciousness that people are feeling during COVID, I would love to have conversations about that, so that people know that there are people around the globe who are facing similar challenges and problems. It is all part of everyone's awakening process. And so if you can comment, then others will know what is going on in your part of the world, in your life, and others can then, you will be able to find the tribe with whom you will resonate more. There is a reason why COVID separation is happening in the world. There's a reason why lockdowns are happening. There's a greater, grander purpose to all this, and I will start discussing about that slowly in my other videos. Thank you. Bye.